Hey guys, this is Mr. V, here to do a book review today for The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Just so you guys know, right from the beginning, in my book reviews, I try to do a spoiler-free book review, and occasionally if you see me looking down, I just have some notes so I don't accidentally give away any spoilers. So anyway, let's get back to the review for The Great Gatsby. Before you guys read this book, I would suggest that you guys know what Prohibition is. That was just when alcohol was illegal, because this book was published in 1925, which was in the height of Prohibition in the United States. But you want to know it because you also want to know what things like bootlegging are, because different people in the book are accused of being bootleggers and things like that. So you should just know it so you're not confused at that point. Now, let's go on to what the book is about. This book is basically about a guy named Nick Carraway, and he befriends a guy named Jay Gatsby, and he also befriends other rich people. I should say Nick Carraway does not have money. He's trying to work his way up in the financial market, and he just befriends some of these very rich people, especially Jay Gatsby, who is this guy. He has a humongous mansion. He's throwing parties all the time, humongous parties all the time. And Nick just, gets to know different people and just kind of sees their day-to-day interactions. And it's just very interesting book because it's like a kind of a study on human mentality, in that this book was written almost 100 years ago, and it shows that a lot of the human mentality, really the main core aspects, haven't really changed. They haven't really changed much. There's still a lot that was like happening in like the 1920s is still happening today. And it's like some of the things are like that, like people always loved gossip. They still love it today, but back then they were still gossiping. They were gossiping nonstop. And they loved talking behind each other's back, where they would talk and gossip behind each other's back, and they would say bad and sour comments behind each other's back, because a lot of people want to know Jay Gatsby doesn't want to release much about himself. And there's rumors that he killed someone. There's rumors he's a spy. There's rumors he's a bootlegger. There's rumors he inherited it, and they have no idea how he got his money. But they're like talking all behind his back. But then when they're at his party, they think Jay Gatsby is great. It's like they're using him to an extent, and it just shows the amount of gossip. And like Nick is catching all this, like why someone will say he was a killer, someone will say he's a spy, and it's like they're just gossiping, and they have no idea, they have no reason to believe that for any believe something. So it's just very fun, and there's a lot of other things in there, like jealousy plays a big role in throughout this book. Blaming others for your mistakes, that one plays a role a little bit later in the book, but it plays it a few times. It shows the power of money, what people will do to get money, what people do with the money, and just the differences with the money. And it also is like it's like with regard to money, it's like the need to show off, or to kind of one up each other, is because all the people that they never say how rich everybody is in the book, but they're all around the same wealth level, I'm assuming, or at least within the similar wealth level, yet they're all needing to show off. One will be talking about how they went on a specific trip. Another will talk about a new car they got. Another one will talk about some new jewelry they bought, or they're all one-upping each other. Nick, he doesn't have money, so he's just like sitting back and like listening to all this and seeing this. He's observing it all. So it's interesting about that. And it also shows sometimes the bad side of humans, about like how some of these people have absolutely no remorse. Just one situation, there's many situations, but one situation is like a woman is cheating on her husband so that she can get money, because then she can live a more lavish lifestyle. And it's like they both have no remorse. The person that she's cheating with knows that she's married, and it's like they both have no remorse. And there's many other situations where they show that they have absolutely no remorse. And it's a very interesting study on human mentality. So it's a it's very interesting in those regards. Something you guys should know if you're considering this book is that this book's kind of a soft core book. What I mean by soft core book is that it's very different than the books of today. There's not a ton of action, or there's actually no action. But you know, a lot of it's just through like communication, and it's like a lot of it's thought. Like it's just his observations of people and almost of humans. Because even when there would be like arguments in the book, there'd be arguments in public, and then instead of getting into this humongous yelling war, they'd just be like, we'll talk about this later, we'll talk about it when we're at home, we'll talk about it in a private situation. Whereas, you know, there's not these humongous yelling wars type of thing. So, you know, and that's why it's almost like real life. Like a lot of people, you don't generally see people just start flying and going crazy and like getting into humongous fights in public. You know, you generally don't see that. So it's similar to that, and that's why I said it's a little more of a softcore book. I think it's because it's kind of more of a philosophical book. And when I say that, please do not think too far into this book. You know, this is a fictional book. You know, you can sometimes learn something, but you know, I go to these for entertainment, and that's why I don't think too far into it. I've seen people online that they go really far into certain books and try to dissect every section. That's not my recommendation. You know, if you have fun doing that, then enjoy, but please try not to think too far into these books, despite it being a philosophical book, because it's just really about human behavior. And I say it's very interesting because it's 100 years old and people are still acting that way. And, you know, that's just interesting to me. You know, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because we always think that people always acted differently, and really they acted similar to how we are today, just with different things. So, you know, another thing you should know about this book makes you think a lot, in that you don't have to step back and do a lot of thinking, but you know, there's not as much, like I said, there's not as much action type of stuff. It makes you think about, okay, the human behavior behind it, and you know, that's where some of the entertainment comes in. You know, and it's, you know, there's a nice thought process throughout, but I actually thought the end was great. I really enjoyed the end. To me, the end was amazing because then it made you think about like the whole book and the after, and everything at the end was great. So, you know, that should be noted in there, because I'm going to review the book in just a sec. So I'm going to rate this book on a scale of 0 to 10. Now, a 0 is an absolutely awful book. 5 is average, and a 10 is phenomenal. Like, I mean, like the type of phenomenal, like make that your next read type. You know, I always rate that way, and remember, a 5 is average. So, and also know that I'm a very tough critic. If you look at different book reviews I've done, I'm known to be a pretty tough critic. So it's hard to even move up 0.5 points in my rating system. So again, 0 horrible, 5 is average, 10 is phenomenal. I would rate this book a 6 to a 6.5. It was very difficult for me to rate it. Now I know that sounds very low considering what I just talked about, but actually it's hard to get above average, and it's hard to even move up 1 point in my rating system, because very few books even reach it to the 10 category. Very few. There's only been like 2, I think. But that's why I say a lot of the books, I'm a pretty tough critic, and a lot of the books I rate, it's hard to even move up 1 point. And that's why getting a 6 to a 6.5 is still pretty high for me, because the reason I rated it that and did not rate it higher, I'm still debating if it should be a 6 or a 6.5, but it's around that. The reason I didn't rate it higher was because a lot of it was average to slightly above average for most of the book. You know, you're just watching the interactions between them. So a lot of the book was just kind of average. But it was the end that was really amazing to me. And then looking back over the whole book was a lot of fun. To where that's why I most likely would rate this book probably just a 6, actually. Because it's like most of the book was fairly average, but then it's like the end makes you think about so much more. And then it's like, wow, okay, now I can see why it was a great book. Which, you know, I still had a lot of fun with this book. I don't want you guys to think that this is a bad book. You know, I definitely recommend going out, reading this book. But as I said, just prepare that it's a little softer, a little different than books of today or anything like that. But that I still had a lot of fun with this book. You know, again, I need to reiterate many times, it's hard to move up even 1 point in my rating system. So a 6 out of 10 is very high for me, or moderately high for me. So just understand that I still enjoyed the book. If you guys have any disagreements or comments, please post it in the comments below. You know, I hope you click the subscribe button. Again, this is Mr. V. I hope you guys go enjoy your reading.